Well, the good news is that we both received the gift of the Eagles versus the Chiefs Super Bowl.
Yeah, is that a gift? Is that what we're calling it?
I've seen some articles that have said that I should be excited
I've seen
about
ships
this.
burning off the coaster.
That I'm supposed to be excited about this because the
Yeah.
Chiefs are going for an unprecedented third Super Bowl win in a row.
Yeah.
And apparently the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. But I think it's a big yawner, but I wanted to get your professional NFL opinion. What say you?
Look, I think it's a big yawner as well. I mean, and not just because of my distaste for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's just like, who cares? Like, who cares? Yeah, they deserve to be there. I guess both of them deserve to be there, but they also both kind of don't. In the way that I don't know.
It's so exhausting. Kansas City, it was probably the better team, played the better game. But why? Sure. But I'm starting to think that there's a conspiracy. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy, but Josh Allen got that first down. Everyone knew he got that first down. Even the referee on the sideline knew he got it, but slowly as he's marking for the first down, he's coming in. Now it's not a first down.
It's kind of angling in, right? Yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah,
it was like pulled toward the Mahomes vortex.
I mean, but that wouldn't have. I don't know that would have made much of a difference overall.
I think it made all the difference because it changed the entire complexion of the game.
Right.
Anyways,
yeah,
we're done. Let's talk marketing.
Just remember, everybody has your story to tell. Tell it well. Untitled Marketing.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 465 for Friday, January 31st, 2025. And with me, as usual, is my pal, my colleague, and a guy who's glad the mystery of the New Jersey drones is finally solved, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
I stopped watching the news.
Oh, you did?
I'm stopping.
Yeah, it's good. It's good health. It's good self-care. I will tell you that. I've done it as well.
But okay, seriously, I have a serious question for you because I do sort of have to stay up on the news primarily because of this show. Because this is a news show, so I need to stay up on the news. Yet, I don't want to take in any news. So I'm having trouble figuring out where to find the news that's relevant without actually engaging in the broader news landscape. So do you have any advice for me?
Here's what I do here's my, I guess, I don't know if it's advice or not, but the way I look at it, I watch local news. So in the evening, typically it'll be on the background while I'm sort of winding down my day. I'll put on, because I get the weather and I get whatever's going on locally and all that kind of stuff. So I watch my local TV news sort of as a background noise in the evening as things, the day is winding down. And then the rest of it, I sort of say, if it's news that's important enough, it will find me. And so I subscribe to the New York Times I get New York Times headlines. And so I get the headlines that are sort of important, I guess. And I mostly never click through. But if it's interesting, like
so you're informing through headlines.
Yeah. But if I do explore, I go New York Times. Yeah.
Now, how do you use ChatGPT for your news? Like, what are you doing right now with that? Because I know you're using it in some way, right?
I do. Yeah. I have ChatGPT. So I have funny enough, it's one of the more, I guess, I don't know if it's advanced or not, but ChatGPT introduced this idea of operators. I don't know if you know.
I have heard. Yes, absolutely.
It's kind of cool. So basically I've ponied up for the big bucks on the ChatGPT because I wanted to test out these operator things, and I have it now every Tuesday sending me the top news headlines in marketing and media. And then I have another one set up to send me the top news headlines in content marketing. And I think sales is the other one. I have like two running.
How does it define? How did you set the parameters to define what top means?
I didn't set any parameters on top. I just meant, it means whatever the
most popular one,
big stories are. It does a pretty good job. It finds things that I would normally take a lot of time to find, and it's a pretty good index of what's going on. And it's ostensibly I use it to assemble the show. I mean, that's really the only reason I use it. It's not like I want to go find a bunch of news and stuff.
So it's almost like the way that we used to, at least I used to use Google Alerts.
Yeah,
you're just
I just find Google Alerts
one location.
Useless. Yeah, I just find Google Alerts completely useless.
They are now. They are. Yeah. Remember when they were revolutionary?
Oh, and now they're not. And you used to get great stuff, right? But now, like I have a Google Alert set for my name, and every week somebody with my name has died, right? So I mean, that's the only Google Alert I ever get. Somebody with my name has passed away.
Well, you're looking at it like, thank God it's not me.
That's it, right? Exactly. I mean, it's comforting.
I'm a survivor. It's like that. You're just like, yeah. Do you like look at it and say another Robert Rose down, but I'm still here?
I do. I actually make a joke with my wife about it. I'm like, hey, look, it wasn't me.
I can't do that I can't do that with Joe Pulizzi, because if a Joe Pulizzi passes away, it's somebody that's related to me.
That's right. It's going to be you or somebody related to you.
It's somebody, yeah. It's somebody in the Sicilian vicinity.
Yeah,
that has my first and last name.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. Anyways, but what else? I'm getting ready. Just not that you asked me, but I'm getting ready to go down to Florida for a month. Very excited.
Oh my God! I both applaud you for getting out of the cold. And I also pity you for having to go to Florida. I mean, that's
well, yes. I'm not the biggest. I know Orlando is your least favorite city on the planet, and listeners know this, right? Yes. I think it is.
I don't. Well,
I'm not a huge fan. We have some wonderful friends of this show that live in Florida, so
we do.
I know
absolutely, we do.
Some in Miami, some in Tampa Bay. Like, we love all of you.
Yeah, I have family in Florida, and I don't visit
in Florida.
Them. Yeah,
but I do believe that Key West is.
But Key West isn't Florida.
Not as much Florida. That's where I'm going.
Not Florida.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah,
that's where I'm going.
Key West really isn't Florida.
They would have left Florida years ago if they were allowed to, and hadn't.
It's a little bit like Austin really isn't Texas, right? So it's at least what Texas has become, right? So
Texas is going to be the Bitcoin capital of the world.
That's know, right?
Did you see that? Did you see the Bitcoin stuff going on there? But for those that don't know, I think it's the governor has set up, or they're setting up a Bitcoin reserve for the government of Texas.
That's right.
They want to be known as the place. For Bitcoin.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Yeah.
It's really easy to do. You know what?
Very easy to do. Yeah.
That thing is every state's going to do it. Instead of putting my money, my reserves into the US dollar that's depreciating every day because we keep printing all these things. We have no control over it. We're going to put it into Bitcoin. That will probably go up. So instead of losing value, you will gain value.
Yes. Well, cash as an asset class is not terribly great.
No, cash is terrible. It's terrible. But that's what they do. That's what they do. They put it in. They put it into like a money market or something.
I get it.
You don't even make back the inflation. Anyways, I'm looking forward to going.
Yeah, it's gonna be
taking
great.
lots of stuff.
It's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be fun. Yep, it's gonna be great. What are you doing? during
What
that.
am I doing? I'm not going to Florida. That's for sure.
No,
I've got some travel coming up. Actually, I'm going to be going to our nation's capital next week, just for a couple of days for a speaking engagement. And other than that, just working. It's been a good start to the year, but everything else notwithstanding, politics and fires. Everything on the business side is going really well right now. So.
I gotta. Well, first of all, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And second,
so am I.
With the crazy chaos and horrible things that may or may not be happening, I think 25 is going to be an excellent year.
I do too.
I
really absolutely do too. I think, I do too. Despite
regardless of the news, which I will not be watching as much as I possibly. Oh, so basically that's leading me to, I'm really only on one like social platform for like personal, and that's Facebook. I get on Facebook once a day. I check what's going on, and then I'm done. I think I'm gonna take a little hiatus from Facebook even. And you want to know the biggest reason why?
My friend. Yeah.
Here's the reason why. This is both sides. This is right and the left side. Why do you have to post things that aren't true? Like, why can't you take 5 extra seconds and just check if what you're saying is true? That's all I'm asking. Because that's my feed. My feed is, I don't know how people that don't, like, if they think that that's real news, I don't know how they survive. Because it's just like, okay, yeah, you just saw that in the news and you share it and share it and share it and you're all enraged and you want to get everybody enraged, but it's not even real. You didn't read the other things that are associated with it. Yeah, take 2 seconds. Anyways, that's my rant.
No, it's not. It's a thing.
So please, would you stop doing that, Robert?
Yeah. Well, exactly. Right. Exactly. My fake pictures of sunsets and cocktails, right?
Oh, those are the best. That's the best part. That's what I want to see on.
That's
Facebook.
all I
that's
post.
What I go to
sunsets.
Somebody.
Cocktails,
what experience? Yeah. What wonderful
occasional
experience is Robert having? Yeah. That's all I want to know. My new Facebook is just gonna be a WhatsApp string with you.
There.
That's it.
There's a joke right there that I'm not even going to go.
Oh yeah, but it's more like OnlyFans. But we're gonna move on from that. Hey, hello.
Wow,
hello.
Chicka, wow, wow. All right,
that's good. All right, what do we got going on for today?
We got a good show. Well, the Chinese DeepSeek app has now entered the chat. We will now talk a little bit about what the latest new AI and why Wall Street might be having a toxic freak out. Why we're all seemingly having a toxic freak out about this new AI engine that has entered the landscape. Then we'll give a quick update on what's going on with TikTok. It looks like there's a lot of folks in line to buy, but it's fascinating. We'll have a discussion about what does that really even mean here to purchase TikTok. Then after we pay some bills, we'll get to the fact that Substack, they're spending $20 million to attract TikTokers to the platform, basically content creators to the platform. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to attract some creators there. Yeah. I wish some of it would go to their existing create, but we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll get to our winners and losers section where I'm going to talk a little bit about the idea of Timothee Chalamet. Yes, the wonderful actor and his marketing efforts around the movie that he is out there, the Bob Dylan movie that he's out there hawking. And Joe will be talking about TGL Golf League and its winning marketing ways. Then we'll get to our Rants and Raves section where I will actually have, I'm going to get a little political and I'm going to talk a little bit about the confirmation hearing process and how the old school way of basically in putting this information out, their content strategy, if you will, is just absolutely antiquated and is not up to the task of a world of social media and
dumb. Is it dumb?
The internet works. Yeah.
Is it dumb?
Stupid.
It's dumb. Stupid.
And then I'm also going to just talk a little bit about this wonderful article that talks about the headline is the epic saga value destruction of the Nike brand, which is basically about consultants and the dangers of getting too far into consultancies as you try to reshape a company. And you're going to talk about Tim Ferriss and his podcast.
Interesting podcast ownership. With Chris Sacca. Yes.
Yeah.
Sacca.
The jokes sometimes write themselves.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Anyways, hey, by the way, a little side note.
Yeah.
Do you know? Because I'm asking people honestly, have you ever heard of the anime series One Piece?
I have heard of it. I'm not a fan or
have you ever watched
it.
Ever
No,
watched
I've not
it?
watched it. No.
So both my children, I love this thing. There's 1,300 episodes that they've been doing for 25 years.
It's a long running series. Yeah.
So there was we went to Pittsburgh over the weekend to watch an orchestra play all the songs from One Piece, and then they would do, they had the screen up there showing like bits and pieces. And I knew nothing about One Piece, but I love that type of approach to content. It's like, let's take all the music of this, and we've gone to, I've seen Avatar do that. I've of course Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars and whatever. I just love that.
Yeah, they're doing it here in Los Angeles a lot as well at the Hollywood Bowl. They're doing movie night, basically they call it, and then they have the LA Philharmonic do like Marvel movies or the music from the music of Star Wars or the music of John Williams or and some of
Lord of the Rings we've seen, Harry Potter,
Steven Spielberg movies. Yeah, I mean it's great. I love it.
Back to the Future is a good one too, because you don't realize.
I watched that one.
How much good music's in that. Oh
yeah, I went to the John Williams one with my wife at Disney Hall, and they had LA Philharmonic doing Back to the Future. It was all John Williams music, so it was Back to the Future, and it was Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars, and Jaws. I mean, you just forget how iconic. Every iconic movie is pretty much a John Williams score.
You can't watch. I mean, I love it when they say, okay, they show a scene. I said, okay, no music, and you're watching you just can't get into it. Like Jaws is a great example. Like Jaws is nothing. The music makes it something. You went to Disney Hall. If Apple buys Disney, would they call it Apple Hall?
Yeah, well, that we don't have to worry
Annie
about
Hall.
That, do we? Yeah, we don't have. There you go.
All right.
Okay, I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. All right, DeepSeek has entered the chat, folks. Yes, we'll link to a few articles here within this because there's a lot. I mean, it has become the story of the week, really. But the one that we'll speak to first comes from Semaphore, which is a great publication, by the way. I really enjoy it. The headline is "The Real DeepSeek Revelation: The Market Doesn't Understand AI," and boy, do I buy into that. The headline here is followed by a lead that says, more than 2 weeks before the recent market meltdown, OpenAI's head of global policy, Chris Sacca, told me that he thought the success of DeepSeek was the AI industry's Sputnik moment. It was a dramatic way of describing a group of Chinese researchers who were able to build impressive open source AI models despite a lot of headwinds like US export controls and powerful chips. So for the better part of a year, sector experts had been watching DeepSeek with admiration for its capabilities relative to its size. After DeepSeek's latest release last week, which went viral, venture capitalist Mark Andreessen echoed Lahan's Sputnik line. His words and others panicked investors and drained more than $1 trillion of value from AI firms and related companies on Monday, mostly in NVIDIA, by the way, which just got slammed. But that was the opposite reaction that Lahan was advocating a few weeks ago when he said the U.S. needs to do everything it can to attract the hundreds of billions of global investment dollars earmarked for AI. And then it goes through the rest of the article here, which is just really worth a read. So I would highly recommend it. Basically talking through what are the implications of this, et cetera. And, this feels like so many big marketing and media news pieces where everybody's got a hot take on this thing, including like, get over yourself. DeepSeek is here and you should just deal with it because it's amazing and wonderful. And if you're worried about, your stuff going to China, you need to have your head examined or whatever. But I don't know. What is your initial take on this?
Overall, I think it's very, very positive. And the reason why I say that is that from what I can gather from the model of DeepSeek, they've engineered it in such a way that doesn't take as much power to do what people thought needed so many chips and so much money. So you have, what did Anthropic's CEO say that just to get LLM started, you need $100 million. Well,
right.
This group of people said, yeah, we need 5. And what was interesting is I was reading some of the bits and pieces of this. I want to get your take on it. They were talking about how like a ChatGPT just takes so much energy because it's like it's every little bit of it is there at one time. And what DeepSeek did is the way that I'm thinking about it is instead of walking into your house and turning on every light at one time, you just turn on the light that you need going into the house. And then you turn that off when you get into the kitchen and that light goes on. That's sort of how it seems like the engineering of DeepSeek is working, because instead of having, we've got every little bit of expertise at your fingertips at one time, it just says, we're just going to show you this little bit right now so we don't suck up all the energy in the world at one time. And they figured out a way to do it because it sounds like they didn't have the chips necessarily to do it. So they have to say, we don't have all this power. How do we do a workaround?
Yeah.
And that was it. And you know what, Robert, you knew this was coming because
of course it was inevitable. Yeah.
Outside of one person at Davos who said, hey, DeepSeek, everyone else was saying how far ahead the US was in their AI development. And when you constrict your resources, sometimes you think about it different. You think about the problem different. And lo and behold, you have something like, content marketing, or you have something like an original use of social media. So overall, I like what this has done, but there's no doubt it's going to shake up. To your point about moments, it's a seminal moment where we're like, first of all, the US is not far ahead. We don't even know if they're ahead right now.
That's right.
And second of all, maybe this is great for the startup environment because a number of companies can now look at this and say, we don't need $100 million to get started. Maybe we need some seed money and we can try out a particular thing and go from there. So I don't know what your take was. That's the thing I got.
Well, I mean, and just to sort of dovetail your comment there at the end, from what I hear, Perplexity has already created an API into it because it's open source. Anybody can use it.
Yeah.
And so, and I think we're having too quick of a knee-jerk reaction on the costs. In other words, sure, they said it was $5 million or whatever, but we don't know that.
We don't know.
And so that part I think needs everybody to take a breath on. The other thing is that the scalability issue is, developing a model is one thing, and then handling the interpret part of the compute, like in other words, handling traffic and the number of queries is a whole other series, right? That's a whole other level of scalability. So we'll see if those costs stay in line as people flock to it, right? As it becomes more popular.
And
right?
they've already had some problems. I mean, since the release, there's been some problems. There was something got hacked, and there was some usage issue. So yes.
Yeah, that's right. And then there's also what strikes me as odd is that there's some very funny memes going around, which basically, OpenAI is now claiming that DeepSeek basically stole much of their data, basically, that to use in their learning model, which basically, made it much easier to build the model because it was already there.
Oh, wait. You mean you mean they're claiming that somebody else scraped content?
Yeah, that's right. It's what's so great, right? It's like
that's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Which brings into question, and I haven't seen anybody ask this question yet, which is, in many of the cases, one of the things that OpenAI has been doing for the last year is going out and licensing some of this stuff. Like they're paying publishers, they're paying, and we've talked about it on this show. They've been paying for the privilege to get that content. The question is does DeepSeek now have that content because it was part of the learning model, or
probably.
And so they obviously don't have that cost either. So there's a really interesting access to data question to go on there. And then the other sort of thing that everybody seems to be talking about is it's Chinese. And so you can't trust the Chinese. So therefore you shouldn't, I've seen people saying, well, you can use it locally. You can use it on a laptop that's not internet connected. Okay. Who operates their laptop other than developers, like serious developers in security and or coding? Who operates their laptop without an internet connection these days, right? It's not terribly practical. Let's put it that way. So I think everybody just needs to take a breath and see. And one of the points of the article, which I think is really true, is that we just don't understand. We don't. The people who are making this stuff don't really even understand, what the level of sophistication is, much less the people who are currently using it on a day by day. One of the conspiracy theories that I heard, which I think is truly fascinating, is that the company behind it, and I don't know if this is true or not, I'm just throwing it out there because I saw it on the internet. And if it's on the internet, like Joe said, it has to be true.
It has to be real.
Which is that they had shorted the NVIDIA stock prior to the release. And so they basically demonstrate how much they can manipulate a market by simply doing something. Like they knew this was what was going to happen. The Chinese government knew this is what was going to happen. And so it's now a playbook for how you actually affect a market like this. It's like, whether they did it or not, it shows you how much one little thing can actually do to disrupt the entirety of what is Wall Street in the market.
Do you think
that to me is the scariest piece of this?
Well, do you think that now Google and Microsoft are thinking that their CapEx expenditures, for example, I think Meta's next year is $40 to $60 billion in CapEx, and majority of that's going to their AI projects?
Yeah. Well, and
do you
weirdly,
think that will be? Do you think that they will bring that back now and say, "Look, no, we have to think differently about this instead of just throwing money at it"? Which it seems to me like, I don't know anything about anything, but it seems to me they're just throwing a lot of money at this at one time.
Well, sure, they all are, right? I mean, you've got the Stargate project now, right, with OpenAI and Microsoft and Oracle, I think it is, that is going to build data centers. You've got weirdly on the same day this came out, which is just a PR nightmare, I'm sure for Meta. You had the same day that all this came out, you had Zuckerberg basically saying that they were going to build this huge data center the size of Manhattan in Louisiana, and to support
Isn't the Speaker of the House from Louisiana? Right?
Yeah.
That's
things that make you
curious.
Go, yeah,
it's curious.
Things that make you go, Yeah.
Okay.
Louisiana always known for their tech leadership, and so it's interesting because Meta is the one that should be the most worried here, because as I understand it, sort of Llama is open source as well, and this is hands and feet above Llama. So here you have the next version of Llama, which will still be behind DeepSeek as the two open source models here. It's like, and you're sort of betting the farm on this. It's like, now
I didn't hear it that way. What I heard was that people were coming down, like people in the government were coming down on Meta because Llama is open source and gave DeepSeek developers an advantage because they took some of that.
I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that they took pieces of it, right? They took, that's the heart of open source projects, right? Is that you take a little bit from the other open source projects and you make something better, and you just sort of continually iterate. And to your point, if you put those constraints on there, you have to innovate around them. And that's what makes open source such a strong component here. But if if Llama is going to be the competitive, like, why wouldn't Meta just switch to DeepSeek now? Right. I mean, why would they even pursue Llama anymore if it's already better than what they're doing? So it's
because they're after the pursuit of truth and justice.
Yes. There you go.
That's why.
Anyway, fascinating, fascinating. Yeah,
it is. It's going to be a big old soap opera. And by the way, I'm not worried about NVIDIA.
Oh no. God,
NVIDIA's the news came out and NVIDIA lost 600 billion, which is by the way, that's what they were like 3 months ago. So it wasn't a huge loss. The issue with NVIDIA was that it's frothy. It's priced to perfection, that stock. So it needed to take a little bit off the table.
Yes.
So if you believe in NVIDIA's future, great, go buy in. Now's a really good time. So
yes,
there you go.
Do you, there's a paradox. Did you listen to the, it was, I think it was on Pivot, the podcast. They were talking about the paradox that the key here is that this actually this development if you look at the longer term, is probably actually going to increase the need for NVIDIA chips and others and data centers, et cetera, because the paradox is the way that it's stated is basically when a disruptive piece comes in that makes things much, much cheaper, it increases the usage, and therefore the usage will increase, and therefore the need for the core ingredients of that usage, which of course are chips, will increase as well. So it's actually weirdly good news for the chip industry that if DeepSeek comes in here and becomes a more widely news. But the thing is, you can't get much cheaper than free. But honestly, right now the solutions are not terribly expensive, so there's not a lot of room to, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens.
It's the days of our lives.
It is indeed. It will become very interesting this year.
But somebody needs to make that the days of our lives, but instead of days spelled DAYS, it's DAIS.
I don't know. What
See what I did there?
Talking about the days of our lives.
Just go with me.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
That is it. The days of our lives.
What are you? Okay, I'm not even going to try and figure that out.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
That's for our OnlyFans channel. Hey, we should probably, speaking of OnlyFans, we should probably pay some bills.
Do you feel like your leads never lead anywhere? And you're making content that no one sees, and it takes forever to build a campaign? Well, that's why we built HubSpot. It's an AI-powered customer platform that builds campaigns for you, tells you which leads are worth knowing, and makes writing blogs, creating videos, and posting on social a breeze. So now, it's easier than ever to be a marketer. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Can I be direct for a moment? Direct about a podcast? That's the DTC Pod. The DTC Pod, hosted by Ramon Barrios and Blaine Bolus, it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. And it's about all things direct-to-consumer. Ramon and Blaine cover everything from starting, growing, and optimizing e-commerce direct-to-consumer brands. They talk with founders, marketers, platforms, creators, and marketing and growth agencies to cover all kinds of topics like brand building, social media, influencer marketing, website conversion, paid media, Facebook ads, consumer trends, email marketing, and if you can believe it, more. That's right. Find DTC Pod wherever you follow your favorite podcast.
I was reading an article yesterday, maybe it was. It was talking about how all the
you just end the sentence there, basically.
That was it. That was it. That's it. About all the the content that people are creating with AI. Of course, we all know this, but then all the companies that have sprouted up that are you run your AI content through this other thing in order to beat the sniffers, so people won't know it's AI. And there's like 5 or 6 or 7 big companies right now. That's what you do. So you take your AI content that you can tell, everybody else can tell, then you run it through this other one, and then it's like no, now you can't tell.
It's another AI engine. Is that
another? Yeah, it's another AI. It's another AI. So it doesn't.
Well, you could do that. You could definitely do that.
AI.
Yeah, you could definitely do that with running it just through, going to Gemini and doing it through Gemini and then coming back.
I understand that, but these are specifically for, and then to be if you're going to write your research paper, for your college, you turn it in and it's like it's 99% AI. You're not gonna. You got to redo it. But then you take that finished paper and run that through something, and that'll make it sound stupid, like a human being did it. I don't know.
That's dumb.
I'm just saying there's a
dumber ideas in the .com boom. So that's
it's a whole new group of marketing tech.
Yeah,
that's on that. The AI beat the AI sniffers.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating. This morning I was going through a LinkedIn post, and it was from somebody you and I both know, a thought leader that you and I both know, and someone we both respect very much. And the post was great. It was a lovely post. It was a wonderful post. And the first 7 comments under her post were clearly AI. And the reason that I know it's so clear, because it's like it restates the title or it restates the sort of thesis of the post and then says, what do you think? And then there's always an emoji at the end. There's a single emoji at the end. It's a rocket ship or a little smiley face or something like that. And all three of them were the exact same thing. And it was just fascinating to me that they're just so clearly AI written.
You know what's scary about that is I know somebody that has spoken at our events before.
Yeah.
That does that. And I see it every time. I shake my head and I'm like, are you not smart enough to know that everyone can see what you're doing?
That's right.
Like everyone knows. It's like, yeah. Emperor has no clothes.
Very
All right, next.
Yes, next. Who's going to buy TikTok? We are going to link to a few stories here because there's a lot of people out there saying, I want to buy TikTok. And the article that we'll link to, however, is sort of the running gag underneath all of this, which comes to us courtesy of the New York Times. And the interesting headline, Trump's economy looks like command capitalism. The article goes and opens up by saying, until last week, the controversy over TikTok, the Chinese-owned video sharing app, concerned questions of national security and censorship. But on January 20th, when President Trump signed an executive order pausing enforcement on the federal ban of the app, the significance of the TikTok controversy changed. It is now also a story about how the Trump administration seems intent on managing the economy. Mr. Trump, it appears, will try to personally broker a deal with TikTok to find an American partner to acquire about half the company. The ban forbids the distribution of the app in the United States as long as it remains controlled by a Chinese company. That's nice parenthetical sort of context. Mr. Trump has indicated that as he understands it anyway, and let's be clear, he does not understand it, but as he understands it, the ban gives the president the right to make a deal and that he wants a bidding war for it. And it goes on to talk about whether the administration, any administration, should be picking the winners and losers here of this kind of financial deal. He at one point had suggested that the U.S. government should take half ownership of it, which was so funny because, hey, that's socialism.
Socialism. So, is it state-run? Is that state-run media?
Yeah, state-run media.
That is.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
In the meantime, there have been a few people who've come up for wanting to buy it. Mr. Beast, who we talked about many times on this show, has said that he wants to buy the company. Frank McCourt, the owner of the Dodgers, and Mr. Wonderful, what's his name? He annoys me so much.
I only know him by Mr. Wonderful, but I can barely hear him. He annoys me.
So annoying. He's put together an investment group that wants to buy it. We've talked about Meta perhaps buying it. Oracle now seems to be the front runner in terms of buying it. And that's the really, everybody's talking about who's ultimately going to buy this thing. By the way, without asking the Chinese government, like, are they even interested in selling? And so it's a fascinating thing. Do you have any updated takes on this?
Well, as I said last week, I still believe through no evidence, by the way, that Meta is going to buy it, or it's going to be one of the main parts of this, and simply because I'm just reading what Zuckerberg's doing. That's all.
Yeah.
Just like I'm at a poker table. I'm trying to read who has the best hand. That's all I'm doing right now. What I don't like, I love the article that you just talked about, because this is what our government is not supposed to do. They are not supposed to anoint winners and losers in a free economy.
Right.
And that's exactly what's going on here right now. Stay the heck out of it. I don't know. I just don't.
Here's something I know. Big sigh, heavy sigh.
That's all. That's all. Yeah. That's the best thing I've said today.
Here's still my question, which I think was why, and it's fascinating to me that none of the news articles, none of the mainstream media, they seemingly are getting this entirely missing this big point, which is, how does it work? Like,
what do you get?
What are you going to get here? Yep. Because everybody keeps saying, oh, they're going to buy TikTok. You're not buying TikTok. You're not even buying the TikTok name. You're buying the U.S. operation of TikTok. And so how does that work? In other words, if I buy it, let's say I came up with all the money and I bought it, and now I own it. What do I own? Right? Is it a siloed off version? In other words, it doesn't have access to the rest of the global audience. Like it literally becomes a standalone application, schmick-schmock or something, right? Where there is no connection to the global TikTok, right? Global TikTok goes on its own, but or is there a connection? Do you create a connection point, and then doesn't that completely obliterate any reason for buying or for having divested of it, because they're not going to stop using their algorithm and privacy collection if we can actually access the content on the TikTok that's existing there, that's served up in Chinese servers or wherever it's being served up from globally. And so what is it you're actually buying, and what does the structure look like? I think that is a really interesting story that I haven't seen anybody cover yet, because it's like, if it just becomes a standalone app, but where's the value in that?
Well, first of all, there you go, asking an intelligent question, Robert. The reason why I think this is really worth asking is because, per what you just said, you have some investors, Mr. Beast and Group, Mr. Wonderful and Group, that are putting together, buying consortiums that are small, that are not like, if you were going to say we're going to buy all of TikTok, you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. But
that's right.
There are groups that are vying for this that are really small, which tells me you're right. You're not getting much. You're getting maybe you're getting the branding. You're probably not getting the algorithm. You're probably getting cut off from content outside of that. I don't know. I really think that we're going to find out that somebody's going to buy it. They're going to pay a couple $2 billion for it. It's going to be really small. And it means it's going to go downhill because it's not going to include the algorithm. And then that's the special sauce. That's like, I'm buying a Big Mac, but I don't want the special sauce. Well, it's just a cheeseburger. Like,
right. You're buying the lettuce layer of the Big Mac,
which
right?
Nobody wants the lettuce.
I can't imagine that anybody would want it, because it means basically starting over, right? It means basically creating a competitor to TikTok, because I can't imagine that it can be connected. I don't think it can be connected, because then the whole worry, the reason that we're doing that is because the algorithm affects the sort of, propaganda and all of that. That would still be there if that connection is there. In other words, if I can access the international version of TikTok, I can still be influenced by that, and my data can still be tracked. So as a competitor on the global scale, like if it's in other words, if it's a separate thing, right? Or I just don't even understand technically how this would work.
Actually, it's funny.
Someone will have to explain that to me.
Well, what's really interesting about this whole thing, the winners out of this are going to be Google and Meta, because you and I are asking questions. Users are asking questions, content creators are asking questions, advertisers are asking questions. And the more it's up in the air like this, the more it's going to hurt TikTok.
That's right.
We could be seeing the destruction of TikTok just by this waiting. We're going back to what we call it, mamby-pamby land. I mean, that's really where we're going with TikTok. So maybe it's all going to work out for those parties involved. It's like, okay, we're just going to destroy it anyways.
You know what I think is going to happen? I think they're going to work some deal that is not going to solve any of the problems, but it will all be theater. It will all be like, we solved it. It's all great. It's wonderful. It's now protected, and your stuff can no longer get into the Chinese hands. And behind the scenes, it's going to be like, it's the same thing as it was. It's just theater. It's just a shell or something like that. It's like,
isn't most of what we're seeing right now theater? I mean,
yes, as I will point to in my rant a little later. Yes.
Like nothing really is happening. It's just a lot of gesturing.
Yeah.
Pointing. Yeah.
That is right.
Okay.
That is right. Very quickly, let's cover very, very quickly here. Substack spending $20 million to attract these TikTokers and content creators. And so everybody is seeing the opportunity for something to happen here with content creators, and Substack is among them. This coming courtesy of The Verge. Again, I'm very much a fan. this publication. It opens up by saying Meta and YouTube aren't the only platforms looking to benefit from TikTok potentially disappearing. Substack wants in on the action too. The company announced on Thursday it's launching $20 million for a creator accelerator fund, promising content creators they won't lose revenue by jumping ship to Substack. Creators in the program also get strategic and business support from Substack and early access to new features. We established this fund because we've seen creators who specialize in video, audio, and text expand their audience revenue and influence on Substack, where the platform's network effect amplify the quality and impact of the work they're doing, the company said in a blog post. This has been in the works for a while, apparently, but now they're sort of taking advantage of this. I think this is more press release material than it is actually money going to change.
I would agree
hand.
with that too. Yeah, I think again, more marketing, more
yeah.
theater. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But what I would like to see, we talked a little bit about this last week. I think we have to start seeing some type of model numbering that goes along with it, instead of just throwing out 50 million, 20 million, 100 million, whether it's Instagram or YouTube, or they're throwing out a lot of numbers without a creator coming in and knowing, oh yeah, if I do this, I can make this. That's what I want to see.
That's right.
I think Spotify doesn't get enough credit for them trying to do that model.
That's right.
Bad model, but they're trying. So let's do that. And so maybe this type of stuff, somebody will get together, and I don't know who. I don't know who will ultimately say, "Hey, we can't take it anymore." These companies have so much power; they can do whatever they want. They just say, we're going to give $1 billion to creators in 2025. Okay, how? Why? How can I get some of that? What do I have to do to get some?
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Just as a side note, I will say I'm a big fan of, they don't pay me anything to say this, by the way, but I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Substack. We use it for our newsletter. And it's just great. It's just really, really great. The network effect is real, by the way. It's great.
So you've seen,
I have seen subscription, on the recommended engine. Yeah. If you basically, the way it works is if you recommend, like when people subscribe and then they get a little, hey, you would also probably like these newsletters as well. I have seen subscriptions come from that, right? So because I opt in for that to be recommended and to recommend, then I have seen subscriptions come in through that. So it's, and we're small and it's not huge numbers, but it's for real.
But if for some reason it works like another email provider, where if you wanted to pick up shop and go somewhere else, you could do that.
You have access to your list at any. You can export your list at any time. Yeah, you export your list at any time.
That's what's important to know, that you get
you can export your content at any time. It's
good for them.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, and by the way, it's free. I mean, if you don't charge for your stuff, it's free. It's great.
Under a number of subscribers.
Yeah, it's under. I can't remember exactly the limits, but but yeah, it's free.
So a good place to start out on if you're
great place to start. Yeah, great place to start, because they give you a little homepage, and it's and then now they have podcasts, right? You can actually publish your podcast through it. It's good. It's got some stuff.
To look at it again. Give it another chance.
Yeah. All right, now we're going to pick our winners and losers, where Joe and I pick a winner from marketing in the previous week or a loser in the previous week, and I think we both have winners this week, do we not?
Yeah, it looks like very positive. We're very positive this episode.
Very positive this week. Yeah. Who you got? You go first.
So yeah, I've just really started to take a deep dive into this. My friend Jim said you got to look at this TGL Tour, which is the new golf league, which is sort of co-founded by Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy, which are sort of the two of the big golfers, if you will, in the PGA Tour. And I'm using it as a marketing winner because I don't think that the PGA Tour is ultimately involved in this. I think that they said, hey, do your thing. You get it sponsored by SoFi. You've got a lot of brand partners, but make sure it doesn't interfere with our events. I think that's what happened. But I think what is actually happening is this is helping the PGA. I think you're going to see more and more people come to the PGA because this is a different type of golf event. It's about 2 hours long. It's basically the way it works, it's teams, and I don't know how many teams there are, but you got Tiger Woods on a team, you got Rory on a team, and they hit into a simulation screen. And it's the largest simulation screen on the planet. But once you do that and you get close to wherever the green is, then they actually have a putting green and a putting surface that's the size of like 4 basketball courts, and they can adjust it depending on the course that you're playing. And what I really like about it is that they have some courses that have lava in it and like weird stuff. So you could do some things with the audience, and they've got hot mics.
It's the beginning of Banana Ball.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
They've got, and hot mics are, I think, the best thing, where you can hear Tiger and Rory like talking smack to each other and things like this. But why I'm using it as a marketing thing is that PGA Tour did this as a marketing effort to get people closer from fans to these people. I think it's brilliant, because what I think is going to happen is they're going to say, oh, I didn't even know about Rory. Now I'm liking Rory, or now I'm getting into golf and I never was interested before. Now I'm going to watch the longer version. So it's almost like a YouTube short to then take you into the longer video. That's the way I'm.
Only there was a word for that kind of marketing. It's only there was a concept around that idea of doing great content that leads you to other elements. That fantastic. Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. We should write a book.
Kudos to them.
We should do some sort of book on that idea.
Yes. Have you watched any of it?
I have not. No, I haven't. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. I mean, I'm not a golf fan or a watcher at all, but I'm definitely going to seek it out. I'm going to look at it.
So they've only had 3 matches so far. The first 2 were snoozers because they were blowouts, but this last one went into whatever sudden death is.
Yeah.
And you've got all sorts of different rules that you wouldn't normally have. It is exactly your banana ball, Savannah Bananas analogy is perfect for this. It's exactly like that. So there you go.
Good stuff. All right. Good stuff. All right. My winner is it's similar in a completely different space, of course. It's Timothee Chalamet and the way that he's been doing this guerrilla marketing campaign, or at least what a lot of people are calling a guerrilla marketing campaign for the Bob Dylan movie biopic that he is the star of. We'll link to the Business Insider article that speaks to this idea, and sort of it's a nice roundup of all the things that he's been doing. But he's been doing things like showing up to a lookalike, a Timothee Chalamet lookalike contest. He's been riding up to some of the premieres on a bike. He was on Saturday Night Live, where he was both the host as well as the musical guest. He did a musical guest as Dylan. Mm-hmm. He's been doing all these sort of stunts where he comes, as Bob Dylan and the whole thing. And it's just a very clever way of these days, as we've talked about, and I'll talk about a minute in my little rant, that today is about the moments, right? Marketing is so much about the moments that you can create with content and the kinds, that live for a very short period of time, but help keep you in people's memory. And the article sort of makes the point that this is going to help Timothee Chalamet maybe win an Oscar for this. I think it's just a fantastic way to market not only himself in the role, but to actually market the movie as well. And it doesn't feel like he's doing things that he would feel like uncomfortable with, or that he feels like, it feels like stuff that he would do as part of his personal brand. But it's also just very fun, very interesting, quirky, and different. And just a really, I just want to shine it as a winner of thinking through how do we create these special moments with our audiences to help us, move the needle when it comes to the other thing that we're trying to market. And in this case, it's a long form movie and he's in it. I just think it's just a wonderful example.
He really won me over. I think the first time he was on SNL, where he did the silliest.
Oh my God. He
did
so
that with the one rapper.
The rapper.
When they were on the panel.
Yes.
His take was so good. He goes to like cling, cling, cling. And he's doing
cling, 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 cling. Yeah.
He's like,
oh man.
I love the whole statement of that one, where they were saying, they talk about Biggie Smalls. Like, Biggie Smalls is one of the greatest rappers we've ever had. And it said he sold more than 20 million records or whatever. Yeah. And the guy said, so he's a failure. Yeah, exactly. He says, I had 1 trillion streams. Anyways, I love Chalamet. I love what he's doing.
Good. And he's great in the Dune movie.
So great in that movie.
Yeah.
You and I agreed that the movie was probably like
the movie was meh. The movie was fine, right? It's it's like if you're looking for an accurate depiction of what Bob Dylan actually did, don't go to this movie. It's definitely a glossy, very wonderfully shot, beautiful version of his life. But yeah, if you're looking for a fun ride, it's like we said, it's like a 6 or 7 out of 10. It's fine. It's okay. It's not great.
So not
his
your,
performance
not your
is
best,
amazing.
not your best picture for Oscar this year.
Definitely
is
not.
Have you watched any of the other ones?
I don't even know what's nominated, to be quite honest with you.
See, the other one that I've only seen 2, A Complete Unknown, and the other one is Conclave. And Conclave was fantastic. It's about the Catholic Church choosing a new pope.
Right.
And it's fiction, but it is fascinating, and I love religious movies. So
okay, all right.
So so you would like it. I think you'd like it.
Yeah, the one I've seen recently that I absolutely adore is Wild Robot. I mean, if you haven't seen Wild Robot, it's so good.
Wild
Robot is really, really good. It's for kids.
That's an animation, right? Yeah.
That's
up for animated.
Yeah, it's Iron Giant. I would think I know. I know.
That's a classic.
I know it is.
It's a classic. Cling, cling, cling.
Cling, cling, cling. Okay. It's time for our cling, 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 getting the rants and raves, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that's making us feel like we understand the drones over New Jersey, or that we're actually still trying to figure out, which we are, by the way. The big reveal about the drones that the press secretary for the Trump administration came out with and basically went, yeah, they're all cool. They're all fine. They're good. They're good. We're not going to tell you what they are, but they're all good. Just know that we know about them. It's like, okay, thank you. Thank you for nothing. Anyway, your rant, your rave, you go. Or would you like me to go first?
No, I'll go. Mine's very quick. There's a 3-hour podcast between Timothy Ferriss.
and Chris Sacca. That's the thing these days, isn't it? It's like 3-hour podcasts.
Which
maybe
is
we
fine.
Could do a 3-hour podcast.
Nobody's gonna. I mean, we can't get people past 20 minutes. I mean, come on.
I know.
But in this case, I watched it on YouTube. I watched almost the whole thing as they were going. There's a couple really important things. First of all, besides my rave, Chris has a lot of insight into what's going on with AI. He's in a lot of those meetings with a lot of the people that we've talked about on this program. Tim Ferriss asked him, okay, you have a 20-year-old that's going into trying to figure out what they want to do the rest of their lives. What would you recommend? And he's like, not to be a lawyer, not to be a doctor, not to be a computer scientist, not like he's going through the whole thing, like all the revered careers that we've had in the last 50 years. He's like, can't do any of it. It's all going to be replaced, whatever. And he said, seriously, what are you going to say him to? And he said something, I'm going to get this wrong, but he said something like, well, maybe if you like ran a beer tour, like in person, and you took people to like different bars and like showed them these experiences. He was talking about any kind of in-person experience is where it's going to be at. I'm like, okay, don't be a doctor, be a tour guide for beer halls. I'm like, whoa, that happened quickly. The rave though is, I really have been thinking a lot about this because he was talking about ownership and how when you own things, like you own property, you own collectibles, whatever, it actually creates a lot of mental stress. You don't think about it, but it does. Like if you have 3 or 4 properties, there's a lot of things that happen. You're thinking about it all the time. You got to do this. You got to pay taxes. You got to fix that, whatever. And it taxes you. If you're a creative person, it really taxes you. And he said, if you want to be more creative, you need to get rid of a lot of the things that you own. It will naturally help you open up more opportunities to think creatively. And I just love that. I just love that concept of if we let go of worldly things that we own and we stop using brain power for that, we can use that brain power for things that will create writing and videos and stories and other things that people that listen to this want to do. So I just thought that was interesting, and I want to be that. I guess maybe I'm hopeful. That's what I want to do. I want to own less things, and have more experiences.
Sure,
absolutely. So I thought that was interesting.
There's a lot to. I mean, we could do a whole show on that.
Special episode.
Yeah, it's really interesting, I mean, I did a lot of research into that when I wrote, with Carla, the experiences book, right? Which was, the way that people value experiences over things. And there's all kinds of interesting trends going on there, that we could really dive deep into. But yeah, 100% agree, by the way. Okay. I have two very quick commentaries. Basically, so I may get myself into trouble with this because it is, I can't help but be a little bit political, but I'm just going to, it's some commentary on the current confirmation hearings that are going on for the Trump administration and the way that the Democrats and Republicans are handling this, which is ostensibly the way that they've handled it for, let's call it, forever, as far as the television world is concerned and the way that mass media works, which is, really they are all about pontification. It's the way that most Senate and congressional hearings work these days. It's not about the answers and the interchange between the person in the seat and the person in the dais. There you go. There's your dais reference. It is about each one getting to make a speech, right? Each one getting their moment, as it were. The problem is that they're not doing the commentary and they're not doing the content like that, the content strategy for these confirmation hearings. And it was most pronounced, I would say, during the RFK confirmation hearing, where literally a senator would say, here's what you said. Basically, I'm going to quote what you just said, years ago. And then RFK goes, I never said that. And then the senator would go, but we have transcripts. And the RFK would go, I never said that. And then they would move on to the next thing. They would move on to the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. And it basically becomes my truth versus your truth. And no one ever sort of takes to the idea of saying, no, let's stick on this one thing and let me show you. Let's demonstrate where it actually happened. And it's this sort of tit for tat gotcha, trying to get the gotcha moments, which are silly of their, it's because nobody cares, by the way. Nobody cares what he said before. The moment is now. Like, the moment is literally now. And if it doesn't happen in that moment, it didn't happen. Like, do we really think there's going to be a follow-up? And that people are going to be really interested in the follow-up, where the congressional senator or whoever it is puts into the congressional record, here's the transcript of him actually saying that, and people are going to go, ooh, that matters, right? The same thing with the letters that are getting sent to President Trump, objecting to this executive order or objecting. Who cares? We're not in that world anymore. We're not in that world where that matters anymore. We're in a different world where the moment matters, and you've got to adapt to a world where we hold the people accountable. And this includes both sides, by the way. We hold people accountable in real time. And actually, I don't have a pat answer for this, but I do know that it's a problem. And it is the moments that are created, and the election is a great example of this. Mainstream media is really just off its game. They've lost mainstream media. News journalism has lost the narrative, and it is all about podcasts and moments and social media moments and interesting bite-sized content moments that happen on mainstream media that are making the difference, because people just don't care. And I don't know how to make them care more about long-term without slowing down and actually slowing down the process and introducing, I've talked about this idea on the show before, this idea of valuable friction. That's where this becomes a marketing thing, right? Because if you create those moments, like what we talked about with Timothee Chalamet and we talked about with TGL Goff, but if you don't make the most of it, if you don't make people care with those moments, then they're lost in the wind. They're just gone. And so it's an interesting challenge for us as marketers and media creators these days to create the moments that people are going to care about, but then have people slow down to care about the longer, more substantive, deep thinking moments. So that's my rant, I guess. My quick commentary is, we're going to link to in the show notes, and I won't talk a lot about it, which is this great story done by a CMO about Nike's epic breakdown when it came to brand by hiring a Bain consultant as the CEO in 23 and then through 24, and had the worst day where billions of dollars were pulled off the company's value in 24 after all of the things that you hear about: digital transformation, streamlining operations, changing categories of products, and basically all this change that we've heard so much that consultants, rail on, just didn't work. And my quick commentary is, you'll read the article and it's fascinating and just wonderful. But the more important part of it is that I don't think it's the actual recommendations themselves. I think it was the application of the recommendations that actually broke things down. So that's what I see most of the problems with consultants, is that they either recommend things that can't be applied given the personnel and the skills that are there, or they recommend things that can't be applied simply because they're just wrong, right? They're just wrong. They don't understand the culture of the business. So you can weigh and balance which one is Nike's fault, but it's just a fascinating article.
It's interesting. Like, even in publishing, I remember when they used to hire a new publisher, somebody that was really, really understood not only the culture of the publishing operation, but also was deep in the industry, like loved the industry, was really, really involved. Those are the ones that did better than anyone else. And when you brought in somebody that was just a great operator, they usually didn't do as well.
That's right.
It has something to do with what you're saying.
Yeah,
there.
That's right. It's such a fascinating thing. I mean, they talk. So just one example in the article, he talks about this idea of data-driven insights, right? Which is, for anybody in marketing out there, you're ad nauseum, you've heard that thing, being driven by data. Let the data make the decision. Data. And what they found is that the data wasn't actually making audiences care anymore, right? Following the data didn't make people care about the brand anymore, and thus ultimately had short-term gains with long-term destruction. And so it's really understanding someone who has the spirit. They've hired it went viral, like, I don't know, 6 months ago when they hired him. He was an intern at Nike and is now the CEO. He spent his entire career at Nike, and now the company and the brand is doing much better with both sales and the brand, because he's bringing a lot of that original stuff back.
The thing that gets me every time about Nike, which in my day dominated the running category. I mean, that was their roots, was running.
Yeah.
I mean, basketball and everything was secondary. You see Hokas and Sauconys and Ons, and they've just like taken over. You go anywhere, you go look at runners or New Balance, like all these other just took over their spot. And it happened really, really quickly. If you think about it, it's just like, wow, somebody lost their way on that one. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. All right. What do you got going on?
Good stuff. Well, as I said, next week I'm going to be traveling a bit. I'll be back for our show, of course, but I'm traveling to our nation's capital to do a speaking engagement and talk a little bit about personal branding. Right?
Be
careful. My gosh,
don't get
crazy.
Don't get in any fights.
You mean that? Oh, you mean
like that?
Yeah, I will be. I'm going to be curious. Yeah, I lived there for 3 years, so I will be curious to take the temperature of the city while I'm there and see what's going on, and look up a couple of people that I know there.
It's got to be.
Yeah, it's
got to
be just
frothy.
Frothy.
I will. I'm going to try to find the perfect spot for our, the video.
Nice, with a great background and the whole thing.
Great background. Part of me feels like I'm going to be in a closet somewhere just for the sound or whatever, but I'm going to try to have some kind of a tree.
You got to have palm trees and all that kind of shit.
I'll try. There's a lot of things up in the air. Got to have a good Wi-Fi connection. Got a good lighting. I mean, this doesn't just happen. This look.
That's true. That's true.
I got to work on it. So
that's true.
Anyways,
that's true. Right. Anyway, there you go. All right. Well, thank you very much, all of you out there, so much for hanging in there with us and for another fun show. We will see you again next week, and when we see you again next week, and before we see you again next week, and after we see you again next week, just remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.
Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.